What's happening, friends? It is I, your coach, Melanie Black, and today we are going to be talking about motivation. How to get it, how to keep it, how to get it going, and I'm going to share with you my personal recipe, my secret magic formula for getting and staying and keeping that motivation. I know it's not easy, and first thing I want you to realize, if you're watching this video feeling really demotivated right now, totally normal. We all go through these dips and waves through our motivation. So if you're feeling like you just can't find the motivation, you're in the right place, I promise you. But don't beat yourself up over it. Give yourself some slack. Just give yourself some slack. It's fine. It's fine. And yes, I have my thinking hair on today. It's fine. I do this when I'm thinking a lot, and I was making some new exercise programs to release in the middle of November before I got on to the live video here, so that is why I've got my thinking hair on. But we're going to talk about motivation now. So I am super excited about this topic. It is something I'm super passionate about, and I love to share with you. Now, I am going to be sharing with you some very boring looking graphs, but don't think of them as boring looking images. Think of them as like the magic formula, the way in which we are going to get a visual grip on what we're talking about as we dissect and break down the anatomy of motivation. Because knowing how it works and how we can hack it is super important to achieving and getting back into the groove with whatever we're trying to do, whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So here we go. First, I want you to take a look at what's going on with all this craziness here. There's a motivation loop and there's a habit loop. So if you are the type of person who is into self-improvement, you've definitely heard of the habit loop before. There's a trigger, there's a reward, there's some kind of path to get there. But what we ultimately want, whether we're trying to achieve action through motivation or through habit, is we're trying to achieve that action, right? We know that doing repeated actions over and over again will ultimately get us to the goal that we want. So if we want to get fit and strong, we know we need to exercise regularly. We know that if we need to learn a new language, you need to practice regularly. Whatever it is, getting good at something or changing habits, it is about patiently repeating the process over and over again and keeping the motivation high to do that all along the chain. That's what we're going to discuss how to do right here. So first, I want you to understand that there's three main components to motivation and three main components to a habit. So a habit happens almost automatically without you even thinking about it. There's something in your environment that's going to reward what you do, right? There's going to be something to remind you in your environment what to do, and you're going to have a path of least resistance to that action, and having done that action, some kind of reward for it. But we'll get back to habits in a moment. We're going to start first with our motivation. So first off, there's three major components to motivation. There's pain, there's clarity, and there is support. So pain is whatever the problem is that you are trying to solve. So if whatever you're trying to achieve doesn't have any pain attached to it, it can be really difficult to stay motivated. So I'll use weight loss as an example because it's the most common example in my industry, but you can really apply this model to whatever you are doing. So if somebody wants to lose weight, there's usually some kind of pain. There's some kind of reason for it. Sometimes that pain just has to do with vanity reasons, and that's fine. Your vanity is valid, right? So sometimes people just want to look better. Sometimes they have a medical condition that is, or their doctor told them, or there's social pressure. Whatever these things are, there's some kind of pain. There's some kind of friction that says, I need to change, I need to do something different. So you want to get in touch with your pain. You don't want to beat yourself up with pain. And we're going to talk about how to skip the pain part and hijack this whole process so that you can get motivated without dwelling in your pain. But it is important to at least acknowledge that there is some kind of reason that you want to do what you do over and over and over again. There's a reason why you want to stick to it, even if sometimes it's not rewarding, even if sometimes it is hard work. So your pain is the initial reason why you would make a change. So whether that is because financially you're hurting, you want to make a change to have better finances. Physically you're hurting, you want to make a change for better health. Whatever it is, there is some kind of pain there, and that is the reason for wanting to do the thing to begin with. Clarity. So clarity can mean a couple of different things in the context of motivation, and this is very handy because this is how we can get at our shortcuts that we're going to come up on in a bit here. So clarity can be like almost a daydream, like thinking about the outcome. Think about like vision boards, right? Vision boards are a form of gaining clarity or having a specific plan. So sometimes for some people, it is, they may have the pain of, oh gee, I really want to lose weight, but they don't have good clarity on a plan, like a good solid nutrition plan, an exercise plan to get there, something that they can trust to say, okay, I know this will result in the goal that I want. So you want to have, your clarity has to involve a certain amount of trust, like you can believe it to be true. The vision that you have for your future, it can't be a daydream that you are just like, oh, well, that's nice, but it'll never happen, right? Your clarity has to be something that you can believe in, and not only have clarity of like specifically what does my day look like in the future, what do I look like in the future, how is that all going to work together, but also clarity in the steps it's going to take to actually get there. So clarity is super important. There's a few different facets to clarity that we can attack it from. And then finally, support. Nobody does it on their own. There has to be some kind of support, either from other people or in your environment or in your work. Whatever it is, your environment and the people that you associate with have to support the thing that you're working towards, the action that you're working towards. If you have all three of these things, you are going to take action. Now, what often happens when you first start a big project, and again, I'm going to talk about weight loss as the example, but it might not be your example, but you can apply this to anything. If somebody starts their weight loss journey, they say, you know what, my doctor says I'm pre-diabetic, I need to get going on my weight loss journey, I don't feel great, I want to feel better, all this kind of stuff, I need to lose some weight. Okay, cool. So they have the pain. They have a plan. They have a good diet and exercise plan. They have a coach. They have the support. They're ready to rock and roll. They get into it. They're going really good for maybe like 6 weeks, and they lose 20 pounds. And miracle of miracles, their diet, they're no longer pre-diabetic. Their blood work comes back better. Their health, everything's feeling good. And then suddenly, without warning, they lose motivation. What the hell happened? Well, I'll tell you what the hell happened is they didn't have the pain anymore. They were missing part of the cycle here. The pain went away. So how do you continue the cycle of motivation once your pain is lessened? Well, we don't want to beat ourselves up. We don't want to bring the pain back, right? That's the whole reason why we started in the first place. So part of it is turning these actions into a habit, dropping it down from the motivation loop into the habit loop. And part of it is hijacking that clarity and support. So let's talk a little bit more about hijacking clarity and support to get it going here. All right, so we have, we've got the passion, we've got the motivation, we've got our pain, clarity, support, action. The shortcut is to go from action to clarity. So do things that not only allow you to see the future clearly, not only will they allow you to see the future clearly, not only do you have a very specific plan to get there, but here's the other thing that I want you to do with clarity is attach your identity to it, right? So if someone is just starting out with exercise and nutrition and they haven't done it before, a really common thing to say is, oh, I'm not an exercise person, I'm not a fitness person, or I'm not a fit person, or I'm a, and you have your identity attached to being a non-fit person. So what does a non-fit person do when it's time for a workout or when it's time to eat on plan? They cheat, they skip. Sometimes they don't. So what does a fit person do, or a person who is a fitness person, who is an exercise person? They don't skip. They do eat on plan because they know it's part of who they are and how they identify. So it's very important when you start down your path, down your journey, even if you have internal insecurity about like, oh, whatever it is, like if you're learning a new language, I'm not bilingual, I'm just barely learning, to start saying, no, I am bilingual, I know 2 languages, or I am a musician. Even if you're just getting started learning to play an instrument, or I am a fitness person, or I am whatever it is that you're trying to be, I am an artist. And really associate yourself with saying I am. These I am statements are powerful, and they're a great way to bypass the pain part of motivation and keep you highly motivated. Because once you start making these statements, not only to yourself, but to other people in your support group, you will, if you don't fulfill on the things that a person does, who you are associating yourself with, right? If I'm an artist who doesn't do art, then I'm going to create cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is its own special kind of pain when the outside doesn't quite match the inside and you're like, oh, it feels like a lie, right? So if you don't want it to feel like you're lying, you're going to naturally boost yourself into that zone where you're matching your promise to yourself of who you are. So this is a great way to bypass maybe the initial pain that got you in and create a way for which you want to keep that cycle going. So definitely take a look at clarity, not only in the form of vision boards and good planning, but also in identity, those I am statements. This is a great way to stay highly motivated. Highly motivated. Yes. Okay. So I do, therefore I am, therefore I do. That is the gist of getting that clarity on who you are and associating that with your actions. Yes. Okay, but yes, vision boards, planning, or journal, also wonderful. Getting lots of support. So support is wonderful. Support can backfire for a few types of individuals. Sometimes when we feel too much outside pressure and we don't have that internal, that intrinsic motivation, support can backfire. So it's super important that you have that clarity, you have that identity first, and then getting the extra support, being held accountable, being public with what you're doing. Is super important. It is a super important aspect of it, but it doesn't go without the clarity. If you just have support but no clarity, then you're just going to feel antagonistic and rebellious towards your support group, whether they're friends or family, or just being out in the public eye, like if you're posting on social media or doing something on YouTube like I am here. You're going to want to make sure that that clarity is locked in before you have your support locked in, and that will allow you to go through this cycle without getting that initial pain over and over again. So as you are actually having success, because that's the hardest thing that I see people go through all the time, is they start to be successful at what they're doing, and right when they're starting to be successful, they give up. Give up isn't the right word. Their motivation dissipates, right? Their motivation, poof, it goes away. So we want to make sure that we keep that motivation going as long as we need it to go, until we can turn it into a habit, right? Yes. So ultimately, habits are the goal. Habits are much lower energy output. They're much easier to maintain for a long period of time. Motivation is wonderful, but it's like rocket fuel. It burns hot and heavy, and it goes by quick. So the goal is really to get our actions out of a habit loop as quickly as possible. So how do we turn motivation into a habit loop? The very first part is rewarding ourselves every time we take that action. So if we are highly motivated for a little bit, super important that we motivate ourselves continuously by rewarding ourselves every time we take that good action. And then we can start turning into a habit. But reward isn't the only piece of the habit, right? So the next piece of the habit is we want to make sure that once we're rewarded, we are having something in our environment to remind us to take that action again. That's the trigger. So we want to make sure that we have our action, our reward, and our trigger, the thing that reminds us to do it over and over again. Now, a trigger can be an alarm, it can be something in your physical space, whatever it is. Action, reward, trigger. These are the basics of habits. To find out more about habits, the 2 books that I would recommend are The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg and Atomic Habits by James Clear. Two excellent books on building habits, so I'm not going to go too deep into it right here, but this is where you can find those habit models, so that once you have accelerated your progress on the motivation side, you can start turning those actions that are most effective into habits. Okay, so yes, action, reward, trigger, that is the loop. So we want to make sure that we're getting that reward, because reward is going to it's going to make you want to repeat the action, right? If an action is rewarding, we will respond to the trigger automatically. We won't even think about it, and that's what we want. We want it to be automatic. We want it to be low friction. We want it to be easy, right? We ultimately want to just embrace these actions that move us forward to what we ultimately want to become, and who we are identifying with being. So repetition equals mastery. A trigger is something in your environment that repeatedly and reliably prompts action, ideally with little or no thought. So this can be something physically in your environment. Again, when it comes to exercise, if we're using exercise and diet as the example here, we want to make sure that we don't have to, before our exercise class, pull the yoga mat out of the closet, move the furniture out of the way, vacuum the floor. Like, we don't want to have to do 5 different steps. If you're trying to exercise every day, leave the yoga mat out. Leave the running shoes by the front of the door. Leave the dumbbells out in the middle of the space that you are going to work out in. Don't put them away, okay? Make sure you got to trip over them to get from point A to point B, and you know what? You will darn well remember when it's time, because there will be very little friction. Likewise, if you're trying to change your eating plan, don't force yourself to cook every single time. Make sure that you have stuff that's grab and go, ready to eat from the fridge, already prepared. Willpower is useless when it comes to nutrition. I'll say it again. Willpower is useless when it comes to nutrition. We want to make sure that we are planned ahead, that everything is low friction, ready to grab and go, and that every time you open that fridge, it's not like, oh, I have to dig back for the vegetables. It's like, the very first thing that's in front of my face, the trigger is, it's right there. The carrot sticks are right there. I don't have to think about it, right? I don't have to remember to eat well. It's not like I've got to dig through and think about it every single time. So these are super important ways in which we can creating an environment for what we're looking for, right? So yes, creating those triggers in the environment. And removing any obstacles in between the action and reward, any obstacles between the reward and the trigger, any obstacles between the trigger and the action again. So again, like say you have an alarm as your trigger for your workout time, but you don't have stuff out ready to rock and roll with your yoga mat or with your weights or whatever you have. Getting those things is an obstacle. So setting an alarm or using an app for many things is just not enough. You have to make it so stupid simple for yourself. Anytime you are looking at creating a habit, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, how can I make this easier for myself? Number 2, how can I make this easier for myself? And number 3, how can I make this easier for myself? Okay, so once you've made it a little bit easier, make it a little bit more easy. Make it a little bit more easy after that, right? So you want to make sure that you take all of the work that you possibly can out of it, because the action itself is going to be work, but ultimately it should be rewarding and it should be easy to get there, right? So we want to remove all of those obstacles, get them out of there, get them out of the way. So the fastest way to the top is one small step at a time, and making sure that we have those steps clear and ready to go is super important. So to recap here, the magic formula, if you take one thing away from this, is I would say that this one little phrase right here has helped me through so many dips in motivation. I can't even tell you. I do, therefore I am. I am, therefore I do. Having that identity of I am a fitness person, or I am a diligent student, or I am always on time. If you say it out loud to yourself, even if you think, oh, but this is just aspirational, this is what I want to do, it's not who I am yet. This is not fake it until you make it. The idea is, if you express this, you will naturally want to fulfill on that promise to yourself. So fake it and you will make it. It's not even an until, right? Because we don't like that feeling of cognitive dissonance. We don't like that feeling of lying to ourselves. So that is by far, if you take one simple trick away from this particular Facebook Live today, it is I am, therefore I do, therefore I am. That is your motivation tip for today. I hope you have an awesome evening, and I will see you next time. Oh, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. Let me know and I'll answer them on a future live. Like, subscribe, all that shit if you like what we do. And then if you want to get more coaching with me, www.thenerdgym.com for live classes, nutrition plans, yada yada. Okay, cool. All right, I'll see you all in the next one. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.